the council continue to support the Women's Network and empower staff to utilise this and other staff networks, especially with budget and resource pressures? Senior management need to understand the value that participating in the networks brings back into the organisation. Is that one for you?
Well, I've spoken several times when I've spoken to our senior leadership community. I made an emphasis on this. I particularly emphasised the choir because they were having issues with people feeling they could step out of here. Of course, again, Becky and I've had this conversation, and others. I also want to see the staff networks grow and work well in other parts of the organisation. We are not Ipswich County Council, we are Suffolk County Council. That's a challenge as well. I know Becky and others have made great efforts to try and encourage others in other buildings to do that as well, so that's something on my mind. It's certainly messaging I can put out. The staff networks are a high priority for corporate leadership team. We had a discussion just on Tuesday about them, and we are, if you like, allocating a sponsoring CLT member to each network to support them. I've personally shown, I think, a great deal of interest and support for them. We've got the staff networking event here next week on the 14th of February, and I shall be saying a few words. So I am, I'm talking it up. I'm trying to, live by example in terms of the support I give and the messaging. And we did that at corporate leadership team. But clearly we need to do more. I think it's something we have to keep repeating about it. But my pushback as well, my request back to the networks and to colleagues who are in it, is to talk about it positively, the difference it makes, and encourage others to get involved as well. Some people's perception, I've also equally had played back, oh, it's a club, it's too cliquey. So whatever you try and do, it's always very difficult. I'd like us to try and use more technology. It's great that we're streaming today, because we do need to think about other people in other buildings. And I don't just mean our big buildings, but we say we've got staff in about 400 bases, and some of them probably feel at times a bit isolated by the very nature of the job they do, or very small teams. So I've always got one eye on that, so that we are fair across the organisation, not just in this building as well.
Paul, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to pick, I think it's all of that and obvious, tangible support is a really important thing. But the challenge around supporting people to access these sorts of mechanisms in the smaller offices where it's less easy to access technology sometimes and all those sorts of things is a really key challenge. So we need to make sure that we keep an eye on that. I would absolutely agree with that. The other thing I would say about that is it's, and I know you're not just saying this, but it's not just about the obvious signaling around support to it. It's about the way in which the organisation engage with the staff networks and what they do about the conversation that happens, and being really clear to people that there is a value in involving yourself in these staff forums, because things can change if you are part of that dialogue. And that really speaks to the opening point really that I made about setting the culture of the organisation in such a way so that we are not, it's not incumbent on people to go and ask what the issues are around diversity and inclusion. There are mechanisms which people can just tell us what the problems are, and we do something about it.
We are running out of time. We wanted to finish with a call to action. What do you think after this meeting, either people who are here, people who are listening in their offices, or whether they're watching in their offices, or you management, what do you think should happen to take the debate we've had today on to the next step? Rebecca, what do you think?
I think it's about having the conversation, just making sure that whatever you do, whatever policy you think, as I said, whatever decision you make, you think, how can this impact equality? How does it? And then talk about it. Perhaps we should have more debates in the council chamber over equality issues and at the council. I think this type of thing helps with regards to sort of championing the staff networks. I do through the women's network in particular, but also it's about ensuring that I suppose I could do more with my colleagues and members and sort of say to them, you do realise you can become part of the network and these staff networks as well. And if staff see the members are going to them, it's less of a stigma around joining a network. So I think that's a bit of a call for action from me to sort of talk about it and making sure that it's normality. This is just a normal thing.
Just to pick up on that, Rebecca, we have had some, we haven't had time today, but we have had some questions from and some comments from the Lib Dem cabinet member in regards to that they're the only political group that have a women's lead. So that whole political circle, I think, is something that maybe would be worth having a discussion about how we can start encouraging that scene.
Yes,
a little bit more on agenda-wise.
That's a good call to action there. Mark, what about you? What would be your call to action for today?
Well, my call to action is linked back to the previous point Nicola was talking about, was a mindset thing. And a mindset thing in managers and leaders who shift from seeing people attending a network event as a period of time when they're not going to be at work, to a mindset that says there is a network event that's coming up, and actually I really like most of my staff to go to that event because they will come back more committed to the organisation than when they left, because the event itself was good and I learned something as a consequence from it, but also it feels like I work for an organisation that wants me to go and broaden my horizons, broaden my outlook and learn new stuff.
Okay, thank you. Paul, anything to add?
I think we haven't really dug into the issue about representation at a senior level. I know it's been flashed up. We've spoken about the importance of flexible working and other approaches around that. I'd like to engage in a deeper conversation about what the underlying issues are that are driving that sort of underrepresentation at that level, and really engage the network in that conversation, and speaking to the previous point I made about valuing the input of the network, drawing out of that conversation something really tangible that we can try and do something about that. I think where you can demonstrate the value of that conversation and engagement with people, that's where managers and others start to really value that, and people start to really engage in that conversation because there's a point in it.
We've only had an hour, which is really tough, I know, and there's so much we want to talk about. Finally, can we ask you then, Nicola, your final point?
Well, my final point would be, well, I think it's been a really good debate. I've enjoyed it. I've been scribbling down some notes and some thoughts as I've gone through. But I think it is about the conversation being had. But I think it's, I want to know if there is, this organisation needs to know if there is poor behaviour, poor language, prejudicial behaviour. I want to have a culture in the organisation and conditions where people can call that out, maybe there and then, or they raise it up. I will take that point. It'd be interesting to explore with Karen what that safe space might look like beyond the formal piece. In terms of the staff networks, one of the things I didn't mention was we've got a peer challenge of this organisation in a few weeks' time, end of February, which is a group of people from other councils and organisations, including a leader and a chief executive, coming in and basically holding a mirror up to us. And one of them is about, there's a number of checks and balances that they do, culture, governance, and a whole raft of things, leadership. And I have specifically asked for a focus group of staff network representation, because I think that gives hopefully that shows the importance that I attach to it in terms of giving what's a very packed timetable for a small team to get a sense of how this organisation works. And I would encourage people to speak freely about that. We've also got the Aspire values, so people often hear me say it's not just what we do, it's how we do it. And the Aspire values, I think, are really important. They was recognised strongly by staff and valued in the staff survey, but they need refreshing and modernising. And I had a really interesting debate at the Staff Equalities and Diversity Board about that, which the staff networks are represented on. And I think there's some sort of modernisation and refreshing, so I shall probably keep Aspire, because I think it's good and it makes sense, but actually refreshing. And one of the points that was made was about supporting difference and recognising its diversity, the modern society. So there's some things there I think we can do to really embed in, but it is about having those conversations and being very honest with us and putting forward suggestions of how we check and balance how it feels to work here.
I know that...
and I might have a look at car parking.
I know Becky wants to say a word in a moment before you all leave, but first of all, I'm sure you'd like to thank Nicola, Rebecca, Mark and Paul. And if you're sitting